I'm Sumit. Okay, I head the UX function and practice at Idea Lake. And what we are going to do today, myself and Soumitra, is we'll run through a quick introduction to UX, more of a demystifying process of what UX is all about, before getting into an actual live case demo of an implementation in Sitefinity. So let's get started. So user experience. Okay, we've been there, we've all touched upon it in some form or the manner. Okay, whether we were calling it user experience design, earlier when the term wasn't in vogue, we called it digital design, web design, UI design, you name it. Okay, today it's over the last decade or so, thankfully the function and the discipline as in UX is concerned has started coming into its own. And the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen a spurt in the amount of stuff that is happening in this space. And each one of our companies, whether small, big, okay, whether it's a business, it's a non-business kind of an entity, everybody is trying to move to the digital space, and everybody understands that user experience is a critical part and parcel of this journey. But what that has also done is there's so many ideologies as far as user experience is concerned. There's so many project management techniques now customized to user experience. There's so many schools of thoughts. There's so many activities and so on and so forth coming in the UX space. It's often tough to pinpoint what is it that is going to work for me. What is it that is going to work for my organization? At the end, what is it that is going to work for my users and my consumers and customers in the longer run? Today, obviously, we have a smaller session today, so I'll be touching on the main key points and then handing over for a live demo. But let's start and try and understand, where does user experience in the digital space come from? Finally, it's a human thing. We're designed for humans. So whether you're calling it user experience design, you're calling it design thinking with customer focus, you're calling it human-centered design. Finally, it is about we as humans designing for ourselves. And user experience design doesn't necessarily limit itself or has not stemmed from the digital space. Okay, we've had enough examples of troubles in the offline space, okay, where we understand why UX is important. Okay, I'm just taking a couple of examples here, okay, things that we have in some form or manner encountered, okay, the classic elevator control buttons, okay, I need to be going up, okay, I don't know where to click, which is the one, it's almost not user experience design, it's almost user challenge design, okay, challenge the user to get it right and you succeeded, okay, and this just goes on, okay. One-way doors with a handle which affords itself to be gripped and pulled, but then you need to put a push sign there. Continues even further when you have complex activities coming together. Okay? All that we need to know is just try and visualize a digital counterpart for all the examples that I'm showing here. Okay? Imagine this was a form with multiple steps. Okay? Functionally, all are in place. Absolutely no problem. Each one of the stages is working seamlessly. But as a group, as a collaborative effort, are they working with each other? Are they helping the user go from one stage to another effectively? Absolutely not. Okay. And these are the classic challenges that at a design level, okay, typically we pose in front of users. But it's not just a design, right? That was, God is in the details is fine. Okay, but it's not just about the detailed design level. User experience, okay, it encompasses all aspects of the interaction with any user or customer has with a company, its services or products. It's not restricted to just your web UI or a mobile. Okay, your pre-sales engagement, communication with the customer, okay, his onboarding exercise, whether he is calling your agent up or he's doing it himself online. Post his onboarding or registration process, okay, what is the kind of support you're giving? It's not restricted necessarily only to the digital space. Okay? The way all of these services, functions, okay, across platforms, across devices work together, that is finally good user experience for the user. He is not seeing your brand in silos. Okay? He is not seeing it as different aspects. He's not seeing your company as, oh, this is the offline channel, this is the online channel, and so on and so forth. Here I'm bringing up an example. This is an old Indian fable. Some of us might be knowing it. 6 blind men encountering an elephant for the first time. Okay, their individual experiences with different parts of the animal, okay, make them visualize it as a totally different aspect or a totally different being. This is exactly what a lot of times we challenge our users with. Okay, when they interact with different touch points of a brand, okay, what they derive from it, okay, are disparate, fractured, disjointed views of a product or service. And this is essentially the biggest challenge when it comes to digital transformation. You try and bring together certain legacy systems, certain offline pieces and everything, and you want them all to come together in a nice, comprehensive kind of experience for the user, but the challenges are many. Now, how do you bring method to this madness then? Okay. One thing is for sure that you can't do this overnight. At the same time, because it's digital, you don't have the luxury of time and effort, right? So it has to be essentially iterative in nature and needs to be process-driven. What I'm running right now, in the next slide, I'll be taking you through a quick preview of the kind of UX process that Idealake employs to try and get stuff out right. Before I get into the actual stages, I would request that the process is a guideline. With respect to each kind of activity that comes or each time of project that comes to us, okay, we need to customize it. It's not necessarily waterfall, it's not necessarily agile. It always gets customized to the current case which the business has brought to us. It's not very different also from a lot of project management cycles or a lot of strategic kind of processes that you might have within your own production life cycles within the companies. But let's quickly run through them. So we start with the classic discovery process, okay, wherein we take strategic inputs from all the stakeholders. This typically is your brand, what they are trying to achieve, what they are trying to expect from the solution. Business, what is the kind of, where they are getting at, finally where the money lies. And what kind of ROI are they expecting from this? Technology constraints, okay, if any, or are they those that can be managed, modified during the process, and so on and so forth. Besides that, while getting all this business and brand in picture, the most important part is user research. Okay. The user research is very critical at the earliest stages of any kind of a UX process, at least a good understanding of the user. I'll give a short story here just to illustrate this point. A few years back, during one of my UX engagements, me and my team happened to be called in for a usability testing exercise. So it came to us very clearly, okay, we need a usability testing done for our software application. So I said, okay, fair enough. What, why? And that's, you ask the classic questions, right? So this was a financial planning business, okay, outside India. They had a couple of thousand financial planners on field, okay. For the last 15 years, they had been giving financial solutions to customers who came up to them. It was a combination of bank products, insurance products, investment products, and so on and so forth. What they had done for the last 2 years was they had gone out in the product and the business teams of this particular business, had gone out to those planners, okay, had taken requirements from them, had taken feature lists from them, saying that what would you want in a new product? If a new revised version of whatever you're using right now. And they got a huge list. They had to get a huge list because each of the functions within that whole process, as in onboarding of the customer, they had to log into a different portal. Okay, they were trying to sell a solution to him. The whole solution, the intelligence that proposed the solution came from a different portal. The investment products were surfaced in a different portal. The bank account products were surfaced in a different portal. So when in a one single engagement which the planner had with his prospect customer, they had some 11 different touch points in the digital space. Said, we have to solve this problem. So we went out for the last 2 years. We've done extensive study. We've got this. We got all the requirements from them. And now we've built this beautiful solution. It's awesome. And we've been running training exercises with them, 100 at a time. And we are now in the 4th training exercise. And what we've seen is the first batch of 100 people whom we had trained, okay, the adoption has gone down to only 7. So out of 100 people that they spent 3 weeks training and post that 3 weeks of hand-holding, they've seen that it has gone from 100 to 7. The other 93 are going back to their old really monotonous, troublesome system. And why? Why is that? So we think it's a usability problem with the interface. We request you to go out, test this application, okay, with as many number of users that you want, and come back to us with a report. We said, fair. So we did due diligence. We checked their training program. It was awesome. It was done by experts. There was nothing wrong with that. It was very well aligned with the application itself, the new revised application. So it was obvious that there must be something more to the story. After a lot of convincing, we got approvals to spend some time with the planners ourselves. Okay, we managed to get touch base on 6 of their locations where planners used to interface with their end customers. We spent 2 to 3 days in each of these locations, and that is when we got some really interesting findings. So the most important one was, see, the company was training and employing the planners themselves. But when we spent days over there, we realized it was not only the planners who were using the solution. The planners had recruited assistants for themselves by paying salary of their own pocket. And these were the actual people who were using the system, not the planners. The planners were busy engaging with the customers, sometimes going out of the offices, meeting them in coffee shops, at their residences, and so on and so forth. So the end user actually, first of all, the end user was not right. Secondly, because it was a fractured system earlier, right, 11 different digital touch points, the planner could decide the sequence in which he could want data from the customer, or when he wants to propose a solution to him, when he wants to try and sell a product to him. By combining all these 11 digital touch points in one awesome, as the business talked about, an awesome solution, the entire process became very rigid. You had to complete the entire customer onboard, data capture first, then move on to proposing a solution. You could not bypass methods or techniques and so on and so forth. Okay, so the second big inhibitor. Third was they had a full offline system of managing registers and managing the meetings, setting it up, and so on and so forth. So they could collect data maybe from 4 customers over the course of the day, and at the end of the day, get the assistant to fill all that data in. Now, these were just highlights, some of the findings that we had. So it wasn't enough for the business to just take verbally requests from the users or requirements from the users. You needed somebody also to validate, evaluate whether the data that is coming in is good or not. And that is the problem that often happens with our understanding of our own users. We are so biased because we love our business, we love our products, and we also love our customers, that often the kind of data that we get is not necessarily good enough to really inform a well-designed user experience. And that is the challenge that we have seen happen across a lot of our engagements with customers, especially who are on a digital transformation journey. The maturity and the quality of data that you have about your users is essential to the entire flow of the process beyond this stage. You know your user very well, and most of the other things are sorted. Okay? Because classically, after that, you would put a structure in place, okay, some kind of an architecture diagram. If it was an application, it would have been a task architecture diagram. It would have been a website. It would have been information architecture diagram. If it would have been an e-commerce, so it would have been a mashup of information and transaction both. Okay, putting those flows in place, understanding the intangibles, what can't be moved, and what is the extent to which you can push the existing systems. A good understanding of the business ROI, a solid understanding of the structure that you need to work with. At this point of time, we generally do not jump into prototyping. Okay? We first jumped into what we call at the ideation stage, okay, where we now take these 2 pieces of information together. We present conceptual models to the clients or the customers that we are engaging with, saying that how is it that we see from a user experience point of view, their vision will be achieved. How is it that we see that if we go from a concept point of view, that all the ROI that they were intending to get out of this engagement is achieved. So this is where basically we run them across a couple of options of how to go about the entire user experience journey. We also, at this point of time, since we've taken brand key, an understanding of branding, understanding of what their communication pieces need to be, we also share with them a creative vision of how the look and feel of the product needs to be. It's not important just to worry about the performance of your product. Because we are humans, we also have our preferences. Okay? And as humans, our preferences and performance needs don't necessarily go in sync. There's an emotional aspect to it, right? Okay? You can use the best scientific processes, you can use the best practices and heuristic principles in usability design, Okay, but still, not necessarily, users will still not have the if a wow factor, as most businesses call it, but what it means as an emotional connect, technically, with your product. So this is where we bring all these ideas to the table. Okay, thankfully, if one of these goes through, okay, we move again then to the prototyping stage, and then finally to the detailed design stage where the wireframes are then converted. What is essential in the stages from 2 to 4, that is from structure to design, is the fact that we do multiple rounds of testing with actual users. Right from the structure stage through the ideation to prototyping and design, okay, there are different techniques that are used because the maturity of design at each stage is very different. But at the same time, you cannot rely just on business or the service providers, as in us, to say that, oh, this is working for our users. So at each stage, you need to go back with your idea to your users, okay, get a sign-off from the end users. Yes, this is working. Okay, you can't do it at the end of the design exercise or post-implementation and just do a usability testing. You're too late in that cycle if you do it after the entire cycle. It's just too late. How much can you change? Then you will be stuck with only making tactical changes because you now can't touch the structure. So testing early, testing rapidly, testing multiple times is the only way that you can confirm that a UX process is going in the right direction. Once all of this is done, finally we hand it over. The UX team typically hands it over to the development team. In the case of a website, it would be the UI HTML team. In the case of an app, it would be a different team. But then the handover happens, and that is how we try and maintain the direction that the user experience process is taking, and don't let it move around everywhere. There's a clear focus always that we have to help business make money. We have to have the users happy about our product. So at the discovery stage, all the critical success factors that we put in place, there's a continuous validation across the cycle to see, yes, it's still moving in the right direction. Okay. Yeah. Now, from this point, enough talk. I'll hand over to Soumitra. Yeah.
So good morning, everyone. This is Soumitra from Idea Lake, and I'm a delivery head. So thank you, Sumit, for your valuable insights on user experience. So today, I'm going to take you through one of such delightful user experiences that we designed for one of our clients, primarily in the insurance domain. So what happens is, typically a lot of insurance companies spend a lot of time and effort in getting the customers onto their website and getting the customers to transact on their website. What has been observed is almost 70–75% of those customers drop off early in their transaction and they never make it to the end. Reason being primarily the process that is involved in the entire buying process. It's too lengthy, it's too cumbersome, and a lot of times it can become too monotonous and too boring. So this is the exact challenge that we had when we were designing this new solution for our customer, as to how do we make the process more simpler? How do we enable the insurance company to have a meaningful conversation with the customer? And of course, how do we enable the end customer to make quick and informed decisions while buying the insurance online? Well, and needless to say, all of this has to be fast and it has to be frictionless. So the earlier model that the insurance company used for selling the products online was basically pretty product-centric, what we call as an inside-out approach. The focus was primarily on pushing the product to the customer rather than focusing on identifying the customer's needs and what the customer wants. What we did was we decided to take an outside-in approach, what we call as, which basically focuses more on identifying the customer's needs, what does the customer exactly want, and then mapping it to the right product. What we did was we basically broke the entire process, which was like pretty long and pretty monotonous. We broke that entire process into smaller pieces of conversation, with each piece of conversation being designed to take and to guide the customer throughout the buying journey. So let's take a look. We have an example over here. So let's say the customer has landed up on this page and he is looking out for an insurance quote for his car. So as you can see, he sees a get quote button over there. He clicks on the get quote button, and that is where the conversation starts. So if you see the tone of communication being used over here, very explicitly mentions that the customer is expressing a desire. That is how the conversation begins. The customer says, I want a car insurance quote too. Okay. Now the customer might be looking basically to buy a new policy for his car, or probably he is looking for renewing his existing policy. Okay? In this case, what we'll assume is the customer is looking for renewing his existing policy. So what it does is selects the option and it clicks on next. Moving on, what we see over here is we are asking for an identification number of his car. Now, what could be a better identification of a car than the car registration number? Because this is something what most of the customers would remember and are likely to recall very easily. What we've done is we have tried to keep things simple over here. So we've not overloaded the customer with a lot of information. We are not asking him to provide a lot of inputs over here. We're just asking for one input, which is the car registration number. Why car registration number? Why not something else? Well, we'll soon come to that. If you also see that there's a small CAPTCHA been introduced over here, well, CAPTCHA is, as everybody knows, it's a security measure basically to identify that the inputs have been provided by a human being and not by a bot. Why CAPTCHA at such an early stage? Because what we are trying to do is we are trying to avoid all the unwanted information flowing into the system at later stages. So once the CAPTCHA is provided and the customer moves on, in the next step, we are again asking for some basic contact details for the customer. Now, if you see over here again, things have been kept simple. The only information that has been asked for is the mobile number and the email ID. Again, something which can be very easily recalled by the customer. Once the customer clicks on the Get Code button, that is where all the action starts. That is where the system goes and fetches all the information to build a quote for the customer. And the customer is taken to a page. Now, if you see over here at the top of the screen, you can see all the information of the car has automatically been fetched by the system and presented to the customer. The customer did not input any of this information by himself. Okay? All of this information has been brought, of course, by integrating with various third-party systems. So in this case, the system has been integrated with a third-party system, which basically interacts with a database with an RTO, which basically provides all the car information upfront. What we are trying to do over here is we are trying to speed up basically the interaction, and we are basically trying to minimize human efforts. This type of integrations at Idea Lake basically put a special emphasis on doing these kind of integrations as a part of our solutions. Today, we also have a lot of other similar options where we can do customer onboarding as faster by deploying the methods like integrating with the Aadhaar system for the UID integration, where basically you can input customer's Aadhaar number and you can practically fetch all the personal information about that customer. So these type of integrations help us in speeding up the customer onboarding process. If you also see over here, what the system has done is system has suggested the 3 best possible options to the customer based on the information provided by the customer till now. Now, these possible options have been nicely packaged into plans which the customer can just buy right away. The customer need not go into the details of each of the benefits, each of the add-ons that have to be configured for his plan. Because basically what happens is then that might delay the decision-making process of the customer. What we've done over here is we have basically tried to speed up the decision-making process. But having said that, there might be a few customers who might still want to go ahead and configure their own plans. They might say, oh, these are not the benefits that I was looking for. I still want a greater control. I still want a higher control on what I can select. Of course, the customer can go and do all the permutations and combinations that the customer wants for his insurance policy, and he has enough room to play over here with whatever options he wants. Once the plan has been finalized, the customer moves ahead, and as you can see, this is just additional information that is required from the compliance perspective. Moving on, he goes to a screen where he just reviews all the information that has been provided till now, and he just proceeds to the payment screen, makes the payment, and finishes the purchase. Now, you could see how seamless the flow was and how guided the journey was. At no point in time, the customer was left thinking, what do I do now? At every step, there was a communication being provided to the customer where the customer was told what to do next and what he can expect next. So this is just one example that I took to demonstrate what kind of benefits do a delightful user experience can bring to the table. Just to summarize, A delightful user experience can actually minimize human efforts, okay, which by automating a lot of processes, by integrating with third-party systems, probably autofilling a lot of information on the forms, and so on. Because the human efforts are minimized, okay, of course, there are lesser human errors, and since there are lesser human errors, lesser load on the system basically to validate what the user has been providing. By minimizing human efforts, what we are actually trying to do is we are speeding up customer interactions, because now the customer is spending lesser time in providing information and he's spending more time on making an informed decision, which in turn results in faster customer onboarding. Of course, faster customer onboarding means lesser drop-offs and more successful transactions. This is exactly what is the objective of getting the customer to transact on the website, right? And in the end, with faster customer onboarding, what we can expect is maximum number of conversions and, of course, higher returns on the investment. Well, that is what the objective of all of this is. Well, this sums it up, what Sumit and me have been trying to say till now. And last but not the least, all of this was possible because at the core of the solution, we had a very strong technology platform. And I would like to mention that this entire solution was built on Progress Sitefinity content management system. Apart from being a most user-friendly CMS and a best on enterprise.NET CMS around, what I liked the most, or one of the features that helped us the most in getting this solution alive, was the ability to merge the dynamic business logic with the content, marrying the dynamic business logic with the content. Okay, and it was so easy that it was in complete control of the Sitefinity user, the user who was basically administering the CMS. So I would like to say that, all the features aside, like drag and drop feature, and all the other features that Sitefinity offers, this was one of the best features that I liked. And this helped us do a lot of personalization for the customers. Basically, just to give an example, suppose you have a screen in between a transaction where the customer is doing some selection, and you want to show some specific content on that page, basis what the customer is selecting. Okay, that could be easily possible. It could be easily done using the Sitefinity CMS. So well, this is it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.